Welcome to Fairy Tale Access, where the head fairy's quest is to prove that fairy tales do exist in actual time, rather than once upon a time. Together, we will unravel the heroes, young and old, who turn dreams into reality. These are the people who still believe in happily ever after. The discoveries will bend even our most cynical non-believers into believing in fairy tales. Hi, welcome to Fairy Tale Access. And do we have an author that can deliver a fairy tale? It's J.E. Taylor, calling in from New Hampshire by Skype with Red, so Fractured Fairy Tales Retold. But in this case, it's what happens when a werewolf hunter falls for her prey. If you thought you knew Little Red Riding Hood, Jane will totally twist you up. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I am great. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I seriously enjoyed this book. And Fractured Fairy Tales, I'm always like, no, how can they twist it? Can they really retell it? But you did an outstanding job at keeping me engaged. I was really exciting.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I loved writing the fairy tales, and I've written eight so far. Actually, nine so far. I had to think about that.
Wow.
Two of them are in sets, but Red is the first of the series. They're standalones, so each one takes on a different fairy tale. So I've got Little Red Riding Hood, I've got Cinderella, I've got Brave. Yes, I
Uh,
took a Disney title. um, I've got Snow White, Cinderella. I said Cinderella. Sleeping Beauty, Belle, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and the last one I'm going to be writing is Hook. That'll come out later this year.
what do
So
you,
I love writing the fairy tales, and I twist them, as you say. You know, it's not taking it is taking the core of the fairy tales and making it my own, basically.
you definitely made it your own. It was really well twisted. I loved it. But so
Thank
you're
you.
a USA Today best-selling author. You've written 62 books to date.
Yes, yes, and I'm working on 63 and 64 right now.
So how do you do that? How do you write so many books?
I sit my butt in the chair, my hands on the keyboard, and just write. And I have a day job, so
How long does it take you to finish a book?
um, a regular novel is about 3 months.
How long have you been writing to come up with the
Um,
62,
I
63?
I've been writing, yeah, I've been writing since 2007. That's when I started, and my daughter asked me. Well, I was complaining about work because I was managing people, not writing, because I was a business analyst, and writing technical documents sort of took up some of the writing space in my head. But then I was managing people, not writing, going a little nuts. And she goes, "Well, what if you could do anything? What would it be?" God bless her for asking that. And I said, "Well, write a book." And she's like, "Why don't you?" And I looked at my husband, and I'm like, he kind of knew from when we were first married. And he's like, "Well, why not? You know, after this, after having kids, and she was 12 at the time." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I just sat down and wrote pretty much every free moment for 18 months.
Oh
And
my
I wrote
gosh.
six, actually, I wrote eight books in that time frame.
Wow, it was
So,
like a
and then,
license
and
to
then
let
just,
go.
yep, exactly. And then edited them all. That took a couple of years because at the time, just writing, getting the story out, I hadn't developed a rhythm, which I kind of have now. I do have a day job, so we're talking writing in the evenings from after dinner until I go to bed, and I go to bed at a decent time, not in the wee hours of the morning. It's just sitting down and letting the writing come. So, and I don't plot. I'm not a plotter. I just basically fly by the seat of my pants. If I plot, I lose interest in the story. It's kind of weird.
That's funny. But
hmm
and now, have you traveled a lot before you were married? And how many children do you have? That
I
could,
have two children.
okay.
Um, we traveled a little bit. My husband had never been to California, and I grew up there as a little girl. My father was moved from Connecticut out there and then back. But I took him out to, San Francisco, Carmel. We went down to San Simeon. I took him to Lake Tahoe. But most of my travels is within the United States. Um, but right before the pandemic,
Hmm.
we went down to the Caribbean on a cruise. So that was a nice thing. We've been to Alaska and Vancouver as well on cruises. So that was more later.
That's amazing because when I researched your reviews and you have 61 books out, or
hmm
yeah,
Yep,
61. And then,
61 books.
you also write paranormal romance. It was just incredibly detailed. Like
hmm
you would think that you knew like just tons of people with all these like quirky dynamics and
Well, I mean, the day job helps. I have traveled for the day job, to different conferences and stuff, in Texas, in California, in Florida, um, in Chicago. So I people watch as well, and Google Maps is my friend, especially with the satellite view. If I want to see the lay of the land of where I'm writing, if I haven't been there, I
hmm
do use the satellite views. And I go down and I do street views and, and look around. And a lot of those books take place in the, middle, Eastern time. So,
hmm But how do you come up with all the different themes? And do you just write for adults or do you have a variety that you've gone through?
I have a variety. I wrote a series with my son, who at the time was 12, and he wanted to write a series about the son of death. And, we went for a walk in Maine, all the way down Long Sands and back, if anybody's familiar with York Beach.
Hmm.
And he told me what he wanted to write. And I asked him questions. And then at the end, he looks at me and goes, do you want to write it with me? And I'm like, absolutely. It was a decent storyline. So we wrote, those, and those are middle grade, young adult, more young adult than middle grade because I was involved, not just a 12-year-old. Um, I have a few, high school level books out there as well, but most of my stuff is adult, adult.
Yes, adult.
Behind the closed
Red
doors.
was
And
definitely adult. And it
yes.
was just, and it's really not, it's almost like a novelette. It's a little over 200
Yes.
pieces or pages, but it was
Yes.
just so much fun.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun to write. And for the next one in the series, Cinderella, or Cinder, I had to look up how people in, the Middle Ages cooked and baked and things like that. And I'm like, oh, because like, they can't just pop in the microwave. And some of the things like, oh, they can't just flip on a light. They can't just, turn on the hot water like in Red, there was the bath scene.
I know, but
And it's like, you kind of have to think about that and step back and go, ooh, yeah, it's not that easy.
well, it was really dark. Jeez, Jane.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
like,
Well, yeah. I have a dark streak.
yeah, I mean, she hunts all manner of woodland prey, but
hmm
the favorite kill, her favorite kill,
hmm
like you say it on the back of the book, and I'm
hmm
like, oh my God, right? What's going
hmm
on?
Yep.
Um, is the beast that tore her parents apart when she was a little girl. So,
hmm
it had a lot of racism in it, and it was
hmm
really well done about, how you change those perceptions or misconceptions That was extremely
Yeah.
well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was the I guess the moral of the story is, don't judge a book by its cover, or don't judge, a person by their heritage or their religion or anything. It was just a nice way of doing it.
I know, but it was so well. It was just, it was crazy how events changed things along the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it happens in real life. You all of us have seated prejudices, that we grew up with, and circumstances change that as we're going along in life, or as we're traveling, or as we're meeting new people. You have to kind of put those notions aside. And that's what, Red's journey is in the book. She had a preconceived notion and a pretty ingrained one in her that, had to change in order for her to move on.
Right. But you did keep the elements of Red Riding Hood in there. There's the wolf, there's the grandmother, there's a
Hmm.
young girl. We have a backstory on the young girl, which was really good. Key.
Hmm.
Simply key. And then it was just so violent, and the fact that,
Yes.
ah,
Well, she's one of the royal guard. She's one of the hunters that, keeps the town safe. So, and she's one of the few women hunters in the guard. So it was a nice twist to do that as well. My heroines tend to be tough.
she's tough, she's vindictive,
Mhm. Yeah, a little
and
bit.
yeah, just a little bit. I was like, whoa. And then how they, mask an area to scare off predators. I was like,
Hmm.
wow, she looks so
Hmm.
sweet in other interviews.
Yes, well, I I get that a lot. Like, you write what? You wrote this? You are dark. And I'm like, yeah, but not really.
Well, it must be
I'm,
from work, meeting a lot of different personalities because they
mhm,
were all really, likable characters, or you really felt for them. You really understood some others' anger, some you just couldn't empathize with in any manner. Um,
mhm.
but you just did such a good job of drawing emotions and telling a great story in, just a little
Thank you.
over 200 pages.
Yeah, all of them are novelettes. They're not, the long novels like, my regular trilogies, which are about 60 to 70,000 words, versus that I think is, somewhere around 20 to 30. So it's just over the mark of short story. So,
Just a little.
um, just a little.
And you just recently moved to New Hampshire from
Yes,
the
I did.
Connecticut area. So, how do you like it?
I love it up here.
Did you have snow yet? Have you lived through snow yet?
Oh, well, in Connecticut we did as well. Yes.
But in New
We even
Hampshire,
had,
snow.
actually, in Connecticut in 2011, I think we had more than 4 feet on the ground. And
Oh,
it
wow.
started it started in on a Halloween, because right before Halloween we got a massive snowstorm, knocked out the power for like 3 weeks. So up here, yes, we have snow, but knock on wood, we haven't lost power.
That's
So it's like,
that's
okay,
always a good thing.
we do have a generator, and we did have one in Connecticut as well. But yeah, I mean, we had that, and then just more and more snow. And a funny story is, I was home. I worked from home and have for quite a bit, at least one day a week. This day, I was going out to get wood for the wood stove, and we had a little sled that we were dragging on, and I'm walking on the snow, and I went down to my waist. And I'm sitting there in the snow in the backyard alone, laughing because I'm like, how am I going to get out of the snow? I did. I crawled out, but I couldn't help it. And I'm like, it's at least a couple hours before the kids get home from school. So yeah, I'm kind of used to snow. And we have snowmobiles, so we enjoy the snow up here. And I wish there had been a little bit more where we are. I think you guys down in Nashua, at some of the storms got more than we did, which is
Sometimes.
odd.
Yeah, and sometimes it was just really weird. But
Icy and gross, and
it's
yeah,
actually getting better. So
yes.
I think the first couple winters were the worst. I was like
Hmm.
you come home from work and you're like trying to get into the yard when it's up to your thighs.
Yes.
It's just
Yep.
crazy. Like,
Exactly.
how did they
Exactly.
plow the roads and how did this happen? You know?
Well, when we moved up here, my husband got this big tractor that has like a 60-inch snowmobile, a snowblower on the front of it. So
Oh,
we're
that's
all set for
great.
that. Like one pass around the driveway, and we have a round driveway. We have a circular driveway, so
Oh, that's
it's
great. You
really nice.
definitely need it, especially the further
Yes.
north you go. But you can see where, so do you play a lot of extreme sports or, because, well, snowmobiling's kind of medium, but,
No,
anything like that?
no. No, I mean, outside of the snowmobiles, I really don't like the snow. I'm not a skier because I break. And then, during the summer, I do kayak on the ocean and on the rivers down in the New York area, but I wouldn't call that extreme.
No,
I
you're
don't know.
very good at writing extreme activities, though.
Yes, yes. Well, I have a lot of family that do extreme sports.
True.
So,
Wow. Um, oh, you did say something about being 4'10". So what kind of
yes,
challenges come with being that? So,
reaching anything in shelves in the counters. Yes. I have to have a step stool. Crowds, crowds are not my friend. But I can weasel through them a lot easier because I'm short and, you know, I'm a little bit more stout than I used to be, but uh, pandemic weight. But outside of that, I kind of like it. I'm not,
we get to wear high
the only
heels a lot, except not in New
true,
Hampshire.
true, right, not in New Hampshire.
I think
I'm
everybody here owns like hiking boots.
mhm. Well, my issue is not only am I short, but I have a size 3 children's shoe. So getting high heels is not as easy as you would think. And I've been
Oh,
very
yeah.
happy that children's shoes have sort of looked adultish the past, few years because I can get away with it.
Hmm.
But it's just like, oh, I would kill to wear the, really high shoes and stuff like that, but I can't find them that fit.
Wow. Well, your imagination is definitely not as petite as your frame. It's
Hmm.
just over the edge. It was incredible.
Thank you, Denise.
It was just, I love the adventure, the the evil. The evil was really
Mm-hmm.
well done.
Hmm.
Scary.
Oh yeah.
So tell me about any series that you're working on, something new coming up along the way.
Sure. I have a new series, or the first book in a new series that's coming out on April 5th. It's Wicked Heart, and it's about a vampire hunter who has a really bad night and all the ensuing things after. So, that's coming out, and that has witches, werewolves, vampires. It's paranormal romance, and you can find it on my website.
Oh, that's wonderful. What's the best website for?
Um, JETaylor75.com. So that's my website. It has all my books, all 61 of them, with links. I have some in Kindle Unlimited, but most of them are wide. because I like the wider audience. I like to have flexibility there.
Why the 75?
July 5th is my birthday.
Oh, okay. That's a good
And
reason.
I'm like, yeah, I like Jet 75.
Yeah, I like how you hide things in the story and how they developed.
Oh, good. So you like Easter eggs
I
in
do like
stories.
Easter egg stories. It was very fun. Because,
I'm glad.
usually you're like, fractured fairy tales, what could they really do different? And you have totally broken that mold because it was really twisted, well done, but it was key to keeping those initial elements to a degree.
Yes. Yeah. Most of the fractured fairy tales have you know, at least some of the story elements of the original fairy tales or the Disney fairy tales, because,
Right.
my daughter was a Disney fan and I, ate them up with her over the years.
See, well, that's just it. With you, it's like Grimm's, Disney, back to Grimm.
Yep,
Full
pretty much.
circle. Yeah.
It's more of the darkness in there. Disney has some darkness, but no, not like Grimm and not like, my books. So, and I twist it. Like the Aladdin one, she is the genie.
Oh, really?
So, yep, Jasmine is the genie in my version of that fairy tale. That comes out in the fall. And in Beauty and the Beast, Belle is the Beast.
Ooh.
So, oh, yes. So I'm like, okay, how can I do this differently? Then but still have the same main components of the well-known fairy tales. So it's a fun thing to do. Ooh, what if?
It's just astounding how twisted you can get with them. And
Hmm.
you don't really have a happily ever after. You have like a
Happy for now
happy for
ish.
now ish with something
Yes.
sneaking up behind us. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like real life. Like what next?
Yep, exactly. What could possibly happen next? Well,
Right.
I'm here to get you with that.
Why can't everybody just be happy? You know? But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just so crazily twisted in there. It was fun. All right,
I'm glad
so
you liked it.
I did. So how many books do you usually do when you do a series?
Um, Usually I stick to a trilogy, and maybe a prequel or, a short story add-on. Um, I have a couple series that are 6 books in them. My Steve Williams series and my Ryan Chronicles series, my older ones. Those are dark. Those are really dark. And then most of the other ones are three or four. And that's sort of the way I plan it. I get my covers ahead of time. I'm a pre-made whore. Sorry. Sorry, I have to say that. I have a lot of covers just sitting out there, and I have a lot of stories left to write. So, so I'm looking forward to that.
And you don't plot them so or how do you organize everything? How do you organize your thoughts if you're writing that many different books?
Um, I don't know. I guess I just compartmentalize it, sort of like I do for work, and I'm on multiple projects at work. I, have a place in my head for this, and this, and the histories of all my characters are in there too. So it's like, somebody goes, "How do you keep track of that?" I'm like, well, if I need to, I will go back and reread something. But for the most part, it just is retained.
That's amazing. And do you,
And then when I see a cover, usually it's a cover that goes, "Ooh, I got a story for that." And then the story just builds and builds and builds, and then I get down to writing it. Um, and I have multiple stories going on in my head at the same time, which is strange. But, then I sit back and go, okay, what do I want the series to begin and end?
Hmm.
So I do have some ideas, um, but the characters usually take over, and that's the end of my ideas.
That sounds sane. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a designated area that you write in, Jane?
I have a chair, and it's usually in the living room. I mean, I used to have an overstuffed chair in the house in Tolland, and I parked right in the middle of the action with the kids. The television's on, they're running around screaming, and I'm just not there because I'm writing. And they're standing next to me going, Mom, Mom, Mom. And I finally look up and I'm like, oh, what do you need? Same here. I've got a chair in the corner over there, that I write in this room, and then in the other room I have a recliner. So I don't have a desk or a designated space. I just plop down and can write anywhere.
Do you write on the computer or longhand?
Oh, computer, because if I wrote longhand, I wouldn't know what I wrote because my handwriting is awful. It's hideously awful. So,
All right. Quick advice for young people that want to write or explore rewriting older stories.
well, for the new writers out there, young writers out there, finish the story. Whatever you do, finish the story and then go back and edit it and work the different layers. But once it's really important to get the story all out, because if you continually go back and forth on what you're writing, you'll never finish. And that finishing point is a really important part of it. Refining the story as you go, um, doesn't always work. So, and it always takes you back, and don't beat up on yourself if what you've written is crap, because first drafts are always crap.
Uh,
Honestly. So just sit in the chair and finish it. That's the best advice I can give any writer.
oh, well, thanks for joining us today and sharing so much about what you do and how you create these fantastic stories. They're really scary.
Thank you.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Until next time, keep asking questions. And if you want a great writer to draw some inspiration from, J.E. Taylor will not let you down. And her fractured fairy tales, completely astounding.